Regional Spelling Bee again in March of 2025, which was the 100th anniversary of the Scripps Regional Spelling Bee. And so she went to Washington, D.C. and competed in the National Spelling Bee. And now we're finally presenting her award for winning the Regional Scripps Spelling Bee. So Sharanya, I need you. This says 2025 Scripps Regional Spelling Bee of Northwest Indiana, sponsored by Purdue University. Presented to Sharanya Carr, West Lafayette Junior Senior High School. First place, hosted by Laura Educational Opportunities, and proudly donated by Awards Unlimited.
Thank you.
Well done, Sharanya, as always, and hopefully we'll see her again in the 2026 Scripps Regional Spelling Bee.
Was the outfit coordinating intentional?
Right? I know. It was not. I think it's just, I don't know.
I need your phone.
Brainwave.
Camera.
Please.
That's what I was trying to do.
If you'll send it to me, I would love to. I'm sitting in.
Sharanya, congratulations.
There's my phone. Too late.
Thank you. Oh, and over here, Mom's got it too.
Wonderful.
But, as well, we also have the traveling trophy, which we had to get a little bit fixed up here. So this says Scripps Regional Spelling Bee of Northwest Indiana, sponsored by Purdue University, hosted by Laura Educational Opportunities, and it goes to the school of the winner and stays until the next year, to the next winner. This is what it says. Shiri Shanti, West Lafayette Intermediate School 2020. Shiri Shanti, West Lafayette Intermediate School 2021. Joey Finnerty, East Tip Middle School 2022. Sharanya Carr 2023. Sharanya Carr 2024. Sharanya Carr 2025. And I think Sharanya is now in 8th grade, so unfortunately, it's the last year she can compete. So fingers crossed. But anyway, this goes to Mr. Rogers because it goes to your school.
Well, thanks for bringing that back. Good job.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, wonderful. It was great to have a happy moment to start off our meeting. Our next moment is Mr. Rogers, who's going to come up and share with us about the high school. I feel like you were just here. You were just here. Welcome back.
I should have worn my green. And bear with me with my voice. I've got that wonderful, like, in between holiday head cold thing. So just some updates real quickly on scheduling. We took one line out of our course guide in regards to costs for students from, I think it was private schools, but basically we eliminated that. That's just an out-of-date policy or procedure that we took out. We had counselors going in last week into our 8th grade English classes to start to talk about their 4-year plans, not signing up for classes, but just to really have them start to thinking about that high school career and how you map out those courses. And then lastly, we have a new course that we will be submitting to you all in January. It's one of these kind of unique things that the state is allowing us to do, especially with the new diplomas. So it's a course that we're already offering, and there's another credit that we can attach to that. So it's it's basically our culinary arts holistic sports is what we would submit that as. So we teach the nutrition piece of it, and then we can add an elective PE course in there because our instructor, our teacher is now yoga certified. And so we have to have approval from you first, then we have to submit that to the state, and the state has to approve that. So it's one of these things where we'd like to be able to offer a non-standard course, and would you, approve that? So be looking out for that in January, and that's pretty much all I have to update. All right, thank you.
Button. Any questions for Mr. Rogers? Great. All right. And I was told we did not have any members of the public. Okay, terrific. So moving right along, we have our consent agenda. Is there a motion regarding, Rachel?
To approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay. Moved by Rachel and seconded by Lawrence, and we will go ahead, and I started the buttons early. So there we go, move to approve. And that passes 7-0. Thank you so much. There is no unfinished business, so the first item of new business is the Happy Hollow Community Input Update. Dr. Greiner?
Thank you. We have Mr. Jones here again tonight to speak about the Happy Hollow survey results and additional information that we gleaned from the focus groups that he facilitated. As you know initially from Friday Notes, we do know that the community sees and values the idea of preserving Happy Hollow. Mr. Jones, if you would go into more detail, please, and discuss your report with the board at this time.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me back. So here to share, I believe you have a copy, it's about 3 pages long, of the feedback that we generated. As a reminder, we did surveys, we did some virtual focus groups, and we had some in-person focus groups as well. So we really got some great feedback throughout the community on the Happy Hollow site. And in this relatively brief document, we've tried to surface the key ideas and insights for your all's consideration as you decide how to move forward. I want to start by just saying there was really strong community support for retaining the site. So a handful of people, fewer than 10 total, suggested maybe selling it or renting it out full time. People really feel very strongly that this should remain a West Lafayette property, and it should be the schools, West Lafayette Schools property that is managed and allocated according to the board's wishes. People use words like it's a gem, GEM. And we heard lots of people talking about how much they just loved it, not only as an adult, as a resource, but also as something from their past, since it was a previous school. And as you see also in the document, lots of references to growing up, spending time in the pool, spending time on the sledding hill. So people want to make sure that that partnership with Parks and Rec is maintained. We'll talk about that a bit more in a moment. I think pertinent to this discussion, more than 90% of the survey respondents said they'd be willing to pay for something at the site. So as you can imagine, there's a wide variety of ideas on what that revenue generation might look like, but I've tried to capture the ones that were highest. Things that were after school programming that particularly included transportation from their initial school to Happy Hollow. That seemed to be an important point for parents and families. Again, if you're working, picking up at 3:30 and transporting could be tough. So if whatever the fee for service is could include transportation, that was smiled upon. Childcare came up in the survey and in the first focus group, but not so much in the second. Just worth noting that. So I know that that was something that the community had discussed previously. Going on to the second page, really worth noting, and I think Mr. Lyle actually was in the room when this came up and may have even spoken to this. There's some perception by some in the community that this is extra space, when in fact there is so much going on at Happy Hollow already. And there may be a great opportunity for the school district or the board to publish sort of an identity of what this space is for. What's the overarching philosophy for the use of this facility? And consider giving it some phrases and keywords that the community can hang their hat on to get over that sort of branding problem that it's just something extra. So many great things are going on, and it became really clear that you can imagine all the different stakeholder groups who have children participating there find that valuable for their children. And so I've bolded the phrase that maintaining the current student activities emerged as a consistent priority. We heard about robotics. We heard about the various sports programs, baseball, softball, fencing, cheer, and dance. We heard about the marching band use of the facility. And so there's a tremendous amount of energy for maintaining the current uses of the facility because they are delivering value for students. In terms of what vision that we receive feedback on that could be really compelling for the space, I think the one that seemed to garner the most energy was a large multi-purpose space. So could we have a space that could be turned into a giant field house for robotics competitions, or volleyball nets drop down, or basketball hoops drop down, something that's really multi-use and guarding against the desire to have hyper-specialized spaces, because that could be difficult to fill on a regular basis. And if you do want to use it to generate revenue, the more specialized in some ways, the more limited you could be. I mentioned the existing partnerships that are valued. The pool came up repeatedly. So certainly people want to maintain that partnership with the city. I mentioned the sledding hill and some of the existing sports that are taking place there. On the next page, we explored some potentially underutilized spaces, and this is where some of the potential investments would come in. The second floor, again, I got to give Mr. Lyle credit. I gave you a doctorate. Mr. Lyle noted that the second floor exists, but it's just not reliably usable due to its condition. So that could be rehabbed in some way or structured in some way to serve as long-term storage or usable space for humans to interact in. A few notes for your all's consideration too is that the Library Media Center is currently leased to a church, so that is providing some revenue. The former board meeting room and the LGI, which is the largest space, you all have received requests to rent and allocate that or generate some revenue for that space. The main office is currently leased, which is providing revenue. And again, the storage rooms could be freed up on the main floor if the second floor were used for storage. So it's kind of a puzzle. Where do you want some storage? And there was some discussion of, the former tennis courts in the parking lot, is that worth restoring or making more usable? And there are some outdoor areas adjacent to the park. And the current really high demand spaces, as you all can imagine, the marching band practice space and the gym. Everybody wants more gym time, it seems like, in every community. I just pulled out a few quotes here about the historic and emotional connection that people express. So you can see here the first one, as a former student, longtime resident, parent, and volunteer, I can say that the use and maintenance of Happy Hollow is important. Another individual used the word legacy. Someone else said social hub. And I thought this was interesting. One person noted that there's a strong preference for preserving some of the personality of the original building. So even if there is new construction, something more modern, more multi-purpose, could we keep some of the original elements of the building for historic purposes? And then on the last page, I just want to note with the city partnership, I've mentioned the pool and the Parks and Recreation partnerships. We learned that the Parks and Recreation Department has a 5-year plan, and that may be worth investigating further to see if there's any alignment with West Lafayette schools. And the last one, and this came up, and I've omitted the corporation names based on some guidance from people in the room, but as you all know, you have some local large corporations that have come into the community. Could they be a potential partner for funding some of this work, putting their names on buildings or projects? And this was compared to when a large automobile manufacturer moved in the community some years ago. So that is in summary what we heard. I think there's just great energy and excitement around the potential for this space. People really want to see it preserved, and they're excited about what it could mean for students. So I'm happy to answer any questions or dive deeper on any of this.
Rachel, go ahead.
I thank you for getting all this information put together. There are some practicalities to opening another facility, having it be in regular use, custodial, maintenance, staffing, leadership. Was there any conversation among the groups in terms of that piece of it, or were we really just focusing on the building and like the dreamscape of what we might be able to use?
There wasn't a specific, we did not discuss like those ongoing personnel costs for people that might maintain it. I neglected to go over maybe one of the most important comments for all of you, and it is on your paperwork, but at least one person mentioned, and some people affirmed this, that they'd be willing to put their tax dollars at work and go out for a special referendum for this sort of project. So that could be, if you all are considering something like that, part of the package of branding and marketing, a request for funds from the community.
Thank you.
Yue, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing the information. That's very helpful. I wonder whether people talk about like naming right to renovate or rebuild even. Another thing is you mentioned the storage. I'm not sure whether that's a question for you or for the district. So what's in the storage? The building was not used for quite a.
I believe it's old records from Happy Hollow and from the corporation in general from years and years back.
We still need to keep those stuff.
Old payroll files, yeah. I know we keep things forever, not just 7 years. Okay, things we have to keep forever.
Okay.
Anyone really enjoys scanning, now's the time to
Yeah.
volunteer.
And so we are in the process to replace the chiller. So I wonder afterwards, will more rooms be ready for rent, or we still need to do a lot of other work to make them ready? And so what's the situation?
So, and I'm going to talk about this, so I'll probably repeat myself later, but during my report, I'm going to kind of report on that chiller now to get it ready for the people that use it in the summer so they don't get relocated again. And over the summer, we're talking about some deep cleaning specific areas. And then, as you mentioned, Mrs. Witt, we do want to make sure that there's some maintenance in there, as well as expectations set, guidelines set for individuals or groups that use it. So what are their responsibilities for cleaning and upkeep and maintaining, as well as having someone in there more regularly for cleaning once we've done a deep clean. And then prioritizing spaces, because there was also a lot of information. Mr. Jones gave the highlights of what we learned, but we know from our individual conversations that Mrs. Roth and I had with individuals before we started the study process, as well as Mr. Jones heard information that the folks that are utilizing it now, those defined spaces, we want to make sure that everything's addressed with regard to their needs, because it's highly used and needed. And so once we've done that, we've got some space, we've got some individuals or groups that are utilizing the space now for lease. We would see what spaces, as we move storage information and so forth, the information that we're storing up to that second floor, that could very well free up some space then for the leasing that you're talking about. We met with a group, we're going to follow up, but we thought they would get back with us after they had checked out the space that had some interest in it. So as we would advertise for some of that when we were ready, we think there's some possibility for some leasing of some of those spaces.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Information. Yeah, it'll be great, and if we can get the building ready and actively advertise those empty rooms, and so we can generate more revenue, right? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Rachel?
Sorry, one more quick question. Mrs. Cronk, how good do you feel the insurance coverage is for that space? Is it I'm sure it's suited to what it is right now, but is that something you need to reassess when we get into more expanded use?
It is covered the same as our other building because we fall under an umbrella district-wide.
Okay.
And then each group, that's an outside group that comes in, has to hold their own liability coverage. That's just part of the agreement for facility use. So,
Thank you.
UA? Oh, you were reaching for a pen, never mind.
If I could take 10 seconds.
Of course, please.
I just want to thank you all. Between the strategic plan and this work, it's been a real privilege. I'm sincerely grateful, and it's been a joy to support West Lafayette schools. I hope I have the privilege again someday. So I hope you all have a great holiday season. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. You've proven yourself quite useful. We appreciate everything you've done. Thank you. All right, moving right along. The next item of new business is classified and administrator raises, and that goes back to you, Dr. Greiner.
Thank you, Mrs. Austin. So it's recommended that all eligible classified staff receive a 30-cent per hour increase beginning in January, on January 20th, 2026 pay to be exact. This is contingent upon working at least 120 days that year prior and earning an effective or highly effective evaluation. And then administrator raises are also recommended using the same eligibility criteria and then mirroring the increases outlined in the master teacher contract. It's been I really appreciate those of you that reached out and wanted some clarification. So I want to clarify here again, just to make sure we all hear the same thing. But thank you for all of you that asked questions over the past week. Administrator raises are, they're mirroring or what's outlined in the teacher contract. And an example of that is the first year that for the first year of raises for teachers, we're looking at the bachelor's step on the salary scale. So from one year to the next, That's a $950 increase. And then to the overall scale at each level, it's a $550 increase. So we took the 950 plus 550 and we divided that out by the number of days on a teacher contract. And then we applied that daily increase rate to the number of days in the contract that each different administrator works, because those are different. And that's why you saw the different levels of that rate. I think that's it. Yeah, these recommendations then ensure consistency across staff groups. We did also talk, Mr. Joseph and I've talked, and we want to make sure that everyone, this is tight times, and so we want to make sure that everybody understands that we're applying this in a way that makes sense and is consistent across the district. And then I'll just remind you what the association and we talk about all the time, and the board and we talk about all the time, because we have that greater commitment that we're truly continuing to look at, and we're committed to those additional revenue opportunities coupled with cost-saving opportunities. And we'll be bringing opportunities to the board, again, within the next couple of months that can help us to really preserve funds. And then when we come back to the table, looking at cash reserves from this year to the next year, that we can even do more for our great teachers that are serving our students so well. So thank you for considering this recommendation.
Okay, it's the recommendation that we approve this motion, or this raise. Is there a motion? Don't forget.
Yeah, I will motion to approve the classified and administrators raise rate proposal. That's our administration team.
Okay, thank you. Was that a second, David? Thank you. Is there any discussion on this item? Yue?
I appreciate that Sean and give us a very clear clarification. In addition, solicit feedback from the teachers about this, and I feel that's very helpful. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Lin.
I also appreciate everyone's questions and feedback on this one. If everything could go like this, we would be cooking right along. So with that, I will go ahead and start the vote. All those in favor of approving, there we go. Thank you. And so many buttons. All right, the next item is the property and casualty insurance renewal, and that goes to Mrs. Kronk.
Okay. Our agents at Henry Ott, or what is now called HUB, went out for bid for our lines of property, casualty, liability, cyber, and workers' compensation insurance this year to try to get the best rates possible. Unfortunately, I don't have great news. Due to market rates, property value increases, and our claims history the past couple of years, we did not get great quotes for our property, casualty, and liability coverage for 2026 as we have for the past 3 years. Of the quotes received, Astra still provides the most responsive proposal in that all programming is covered with low deductibles and high limits. This line of coverage will see approximately a $109,000 increase for the 2026 year. Now, I will like to say that that is the maximum at this time. I am still working with them to see if we can get some better rates on some of our lines and to see if there's any changes that we can make that are feasible to lower what that premium amount is. So we are still working, so what I'm bringing you is the maximum that it will be. We did have good news, though, in the cyber and workers' compensation lines of coverage. We recommend moving to Eastern Alliance for workers' compensation for 2026 at a decreased cost from our 25 coverage, even though our total wages have increased. And we have that premium decrease due in large part to the fact that the school corporation continues to have a low experience modification rating driven by our workers' compensation claims history. We also recommend moving our cyber coverage to Tokyo Marine, as it now offers a lower deductible at a lower cost compared to our current carrier. Both the cyber and workers' compensation insurance recommendation will save us approximately $15,000 compared to our current rates. And as I said, we'll continue to work with Henry Ott to see if there are other ways we can lower the total cost of that property, casualty, liability insurance before binding. And we will also begin to explore other insurance options for 2027. At this time, please approve moving forward with Astra, Eastern Alliance, and Tokyo Marine, please, for our lines of coverage.
All right, is there a motion? Rachel?
Make a motion to approve the property casualty insurance renewal as proposed by Mrs. Kronk.
Great. Could I have a second, please? George? All right. Is there any discussion? I know ours at work all went way up as well.
Yeah,
It's
other
rough
schools
year.
are seeing increases too. I guess the market's about 30%, but we've gotten really good rates for the past 3 years, and apparently they are making up for that difference at this point. It's like great timing.
But we were fortunate while other schools were seeing it early
Yeah,
on.
see,
weren't
they
we?
were seeing
Yeah.
like 20% increases, and we only saw maybe a 7% for a couple years. So I guess it should have been expected, but not great timing. So.
Thank you.
So is this a matter of an increase in the risk calculation, or is this an increase in the carrier's costs that's causing all this?
I think both. Yeah, the water main break was a pretty significant claim. I think it was about $280,000. And we had, I think I put in Friday notes, we've had wonderful experience with Astra. You don't ever want to have to work with your insurance company, but they have been amazing to work with. And as soon as we turned in invoices, we received reimbursement within about a week. And I think that's kind of unheard of across the market. So they are very responsive. And so that's why I do feel comfortable still moving forward with them, because they have been really good to work with. So.
Great. Thank you. All right, I'll go ahead and start the buttons. All those in favor of approving as presented? That is everybody. Next, we are going to talk about the E-rate internet services purchase, and that is back to you, Mrs. Cron.
Yeah, I always have the real exciting stuff, don't I?
Yes, you do.
Yeah. We currently use WinTech for our internet access and wide area network circuits, and that service provider agreement is coming to an end. This service is provided through the federal E-rate Category 1 funding program, and as such, we receive a 50% discount on services. Mr. Hamilton worked with our federal E-rate consultant at AdTech on the federal RFP process that's required. Proposals were received from various vendors. Using the rubric, the winning proposal was provided again by WinTech to continue our 5 gigabyte services for 60 months. The total cost after the 50% E-rate discount will be $2,025 per month. The service agreement was reviewed by our legal counsel. Please approve that recommendation as submitted so that we can continue our internet services and thus our phone lines and a whole bunch of other things.
That's important. All right. I need a motion, please. David?
Motion to approve the E-rate internet service purchase?
Okay, thank you. And Lawrence, was that a second? Thank you. Any discussion?
Just one question.
Oh, don't forget your button.
Might have to have Brandon help with this one.
Yeah, I was going to direct it toward Brandon. This is just a curiosity on my part. Is that speed they're giving us, is that bidirectional? Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't have known the answer to that one, so, yeah.
Not making jokes tonight. All right, I'll start the buttons. There we go. Terrific, thank you. And the next item is the Happy Hollow chiller recommendation. One more time, Michelle.
Okay. We recently worked with our engineer from Creative Engineering to accept bids for the replacement of the chiller at Happy Hollow on November 20th. We are recommending moving forward with the replacement due to community feedback calling for the preservation of the building, as Adam shared with us a little while ago. We received 4 bids from Perfection Group, DA Dodd, Eberhart Heating and Cooling, and Quality Plumbing and Heating. The lowest bid amount was submitted by Eberhart Heating and Cooling at a cost of $489,000, which is in line with the project estimation. Creative Engineering worked with John Becker of Church and Shirts on the final contract with Eberhart that is included in your board documents. Please approve the construction contract as presented so that we can give notice to proceed and the equipment can be ordered. A reminder that this chiller replacement will be paid using 2024 GO bond proceeds. And the engineer will also track the equipment once it's ordered. And hopefully if it arrives early, that maybe we could get started earlier. But as of right now in the document, the substantial completion date is at the end of the summer, but we are hoping for an earlier date if all goes well.
Great. I need a motion, please. George? George moves to approve. Is there a second? Okay. Lawrence, and is there any discussion? Rachel?
Is it expected to disrupt use of the building while that work's going on?
It should not, because really everything's outside. Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? George?
I don't know if you'll know the answer to this question, but with all the talk about the age of the building and what needs to be done to get it up to speed for all the other uses, is the chiller going to go on the roof?
A chiller is going to go in that, when you drive around to the back, like towards the pool, there's that little addition that's kind of on the side. It's like a separate building.
Okay, so that-
That's what we're replacing.
So we don't have to worry about any structural integrity issues. All right.
Great. All right, Lawrence? Oh, don't forget.
Yeah, the only concern, I think it's pretty good contract, but the only concern is that it may be too late. And then let's say if they install that by the end of July, I mean, for June and July, do we have any backup plans for that building?
We put things in place as far as portable air conditioners this past summer, and we have not taken those out. So those will remain until we get the new chiller installed. And so we already have things in place in case it doesn't get replaced. And we are kind of at the mercy of when they get the equipment in place. And so, as you know, there was a line in the contract that if it's not done by that substantial completion, they might have to pay extra money. So that was part of the bid, of when they could do it and what the substantial completion date was. So, yeah.
And then when eventually we end up with some new plans for that building, so this chiller can still serve that new building in some ways, this or that way. That's okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yep. Is that everybody? All right, I'll go ahead and start the vote to approve the chiller. That is a very quick 7-0. Thank you. All right. Next item. Uh-oh. All right, we're here, folks. It's the policy marathon. I'm a woman of my word. I have your ice cream right here. So since you guys had to do this, you get yours already. All right, Rachel, take it away.
So you'll notice that the policies tonight are broken into 3 sections. David Lawrence and I met along with Mrs. Roth and Dr. Reiner and Roberta and went through everything from first reading last time. So you notice that they're bundled into 3 sections. The first section are policies in which we did not receive any feedback. So there were no recommended changes, either from legal or from us. The second batch are second reading policies where we had some conversation, we had some feedback, and that's been incorporated. And the third, you're going to notice that there's quite a lengthy list of policies that we are proposing to get done before our next meeting. I will just say that it is possible we will not get through all of them, but we are going to do our best to get through. So that's why we asked Mrs. Austin to just give us everything. And so those, of course, we're going to ask for your reading and feedback on. This process seems to be working well, so we'd like to continue. Another change to the policies in the agenda this week or this month are that you're going to notice Mrs. Austin or Mrs. Julian has put the Neola policies for rescission in orange following each of the proposed policies. So when those pass, those orange ones will automatically be rescinded. And with that, I would like to make a motion that we consider all of the first section of policies without any recommendation as one vote.
All right, moved by Rachel and seconded by David. Any discussion, Daisha?
I have a question on 2 of the policies for Dr. Greiner. The first one is in regard to policy D325 on volunteers and background checks. I wondered if you could share what is the current guidelines that each of our school buildings follow to allow parent and volunteers in the schools?
Go ahead.
We follow the state guidelines that say if there is continued, not going to help me out with wording here. If continued ongoing
That's where I was with the word.
contact
Yeah.
was, thank you, it's evening, I apologize. They have to go through the normal background check purposes. If it's just for like a 1-day thing, a field trip, then it's the volunteer background check. And then if they are coming into the classroom and there's not going to be, or they're coming into the building and there's not going to be like teacher oversight, they have to go through the background check. If they are coming in for a day or 2, working with the teacher is there, they're working with the kids, they give their license when they come in.
Would there be an option of sending this out to parents? I personally have interacted with the changes over the last few years. I actually had an interesting conversation with a parent just a few months ago that was scared to drop something off at the high school for an evening event because they're like, I don't have a background check, and so I can't be here dropping things off if it's not an official event. And I was trying to, I was like, that is not the way this works. But I just think there has been misinformation. I know I experienced that as a teacher and as a parent, different messages. To me, at least what I'm understanding, you're explaining, it seems very clear on what's expected. And I just, if there's an opportunity in a future newsletter or something, just to share with parents.
I think we can work with the principals to make sure that information is shared in maybe some newsletters and on the websites maybe.
Yeah, we can even put it in the Red Devil pen, so we'll put it in multiple ways. We'll have it more personalized at the school level. We'll ask the schools to do that, and then we'll also send something out like through the Red Devil pen.
That would be great. I know this has been something that's been talked about for years, and it's great to just hear a consistency and feels a lot more welcoming than sometimes has been the experience in past years, so I appreciate that.
I think David has a comment about this before you move on to your other thing. That's fine. Thank you. Don't forget your buttons.
I would actually recommend it just be sent out as an individual district-wide email for information, because it's going to get lost if it's in a newsletter. I try to read everything that we get, but it's hard. And so just a specific one that says subject line, something like information for background checks.
We can absolutely do that.
Yeah,
We'll do
that's
that through the school level. We'll have Mrs. Julian send out through Skyward. And then if buildings, if you want to personalize it, feel free to, but it'll be very similar, obviously, because it's consistent. But we will absolutely send a district-wide email. Thanks for the recommendation, both Mrs. Mumford and Dr. Purpura.
Rachel?
I want to throw this out there that while I do agree that we should be really hospitable and open, our primary obligation is to educate the children. And so I think it's important to just in this moment pause and say the building principals may have different views on when and where that's appropriate to have a bunch of parents in during the day or around in the day. So I agree that a corporation-wide policy and consistency is important. I also would, and I know Dr. Greiner and Mrs. Roth will do this, but also consult with the principals, because for example, it would not be a good idea for me to attend high school with my senior, and I would be disruptive to the learning process. So
What about anything but a backpack day?
I think there's just an important to have some balance to that part of the conversation.
We'll absolutely make sure that it's for information with regard to when would you do a full background check versus what's the partial? Limited. Thank you. I never want to say minimum. Yes, we will send that information out, what constitutes this one versus this one, so that parents can understand there is a place for you to volunteer for things like field trips and such. We won't word it like, please come in and hang out in the hallways. We'll make sure that we do it in a manner that's informative and professional. So thank you for that, Mrs. Witt.
Daisha, you had a second item.
Okay,
on
my second question is concerning policy D475 that talks about the justifiable decrease in teaching positions. So I was wondering if you would share what is the order so luckily we're not dealing with this right now. But I would like it clear is what order in which positions would be affected during a reduction in force. And then will this be outlined in administrative guidelines, or how is this information this kind of criteria followed?
It would be, it'll be spelled out, outlined in administrative guidelines, and it'll be very clear. And we have to do that to protect ourselves legally, so we'll want to make those guidelines clear, so that if we ever were. Now, I want to, I really appreciate that question, Mrs. Mumford, because I want to stress that we really work hard to focus proactively so that we don't riff, because when you start riffing, you bring unsettled feelings. So in my tenure as a superintendent, period, I've worked hard. I was in a district where they would riff 1 year, then bring back, or say, oh, you're a 3/4 teacher this year and full-time this year. And that changed when I became superintendent, because I wanted teachers to know that if you were coming to our district, you were valued and you were here and we were going to support you. We work really hard to do that here too. And so we're proactive and we're constantly looking out ahead and what challenges we might have. And we think about that as an administrative team in our hiring processes. So I just wanted to stress that. And then with your question, you start with the seniority, and then you can go into needs and high needs, and you're also always looking at those evaluations, effective versus below effective. But again, the order in which those things happen, we will lay out in administrative guidelines, and that will be under the direction, support of our legal counsel, because there have been legal suits out there on the change there was a change, and a couple of school corporations, including one that I was in, had to follow the legalities, and then they got sued. And then they had to go back and address that when they were following the guidelines, and that was before my time. So, but I inherited then dealing with the aftermath. And so we're going to make sure that we would follow the guidelines of our legal counsel in that situation and do right by our people.
So if I understand correctly, the seniority is not just the most recent is who gets the reduction of force notice first. There is a process in that, if I'm understanding correctly. It's not just seniority, meaning if you're the newest, who's first to get notification. Is that correct?
There is a process, and that you are correct in that process.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that.
You're welcome.
Okay, Lawrence, you had something. I missed you. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Yeah, just back to the D 325. So that's what they are. So from our board's policy making point of view, do you think we need to put another item, say volunteer, something on the policy, or you think that this can be handled by the administration guidelines or something?
I think we can handle it on administrative guidelines, but more importantly, even just communicating out like the request was. So I do not believe, I appreciate the question. I don't think, Mr. Wong, that it needs to be added to the policy. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Yue.
Just a follow-up, and so in this D475, and then in another policy, it mentioned applicable handbooks. Is that the same thing as what Sean said, the administrative guideline?
The handbooks are the school handbooks. Each school might have a slightly different process based on the age of their students, but yeah, that I think.
I mean, that handbook is the handbook for that school employees. I just want to get some
No, not for the
clarification.
employees. Are you talking about the administrative?
Yeah,
guidelines?
this policy mentioned the handbook, some applicable handbooks.
Let me pull it back up. I clicked off of it.
The D475. And Sean also mentioned the administrative guidelines. I wonder whether they.
Oh, I see.
Thing,
It
or-
says employee background checks and not volunteers aren't listed in
No,
there.
no,
Volunteers been at the bottom.
They're at the bottom. Okay. It's been a minute. And coaches. Mhm.
right, yeah, I just want to know what that exact is.
Yeah, the student handbook. Okay. Which is probably the first place people go for information about what's going on at the schools, the student handbook. So
It's not a student handbook, right? So I just,
Do our student handbooks talk about backgrounds? Or I mean,
She's talking about a different one.
okay, thank you. All right.
yeah, it's a D75, the one Adisha mentioned, talked about earlier, that the same policy.
All right, let's
And
find
it
this. Can we
sounds
pull
like
this
it's the
policy
for
up, Brandon?
employee, but
I want to
I
make sure we're
want
looking at the same.
475.
475. D is in dog.
Right, yeah.
Okay. I see.
I just need to see it.
So I wonder what that is.
Employee handbooks. If they
So
existed.
we have that book.
Do we have employee handbook?
No, we'll do it through administrative guidelines.
Flexible handbook. So we have employee book handbook.
No.
HR.
No, it'll be through administrative guidelines.
So that's for the whole district, that handbook, administrative
The
guidelines.
administrative guidelines are, yeah.
Yes, it'll be district-wide.
Okay, it's not
District-wide
like a
practice.
building wise, unlike the student handbook.
Correct, yes.
okay.
Yes,
Sorry, I
that's correct.
totally didn't
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, because I see that in couple places, so I wonder what that is.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, the bouncing back and
Where's
forth got
Jessie's?
me.
Okay.
Okay, so if we're all through asking questions, George?
So, oh, by the way,
What?
do we review that guideline or we don't?
The administrative guidelines,
Yeah.
we've never had them.
You'll be able to see them. We're going to post them. I think we've started posting them actually. So yes, so Dr. Yin, you can go and see those anytime. We're going to post those and make them very transparent. They'll be on our website, and we have a few already that have been approved. And so as those are approved, they will be
We'll
available
put
for the
like
board to
in
review.
handbook eventually, because
They're on there, just so you know.
Some, right? You mean the ones that, as they get approved? Yes.
Oh, okay.
As they get approved, they're on there. What I was not all on there. There wouldn't be one on this one yet, but Mrs. Mumford's
Yeah.
correct. The ones that have been approved and that we've been working with the attorney on, we're getting them up there as they, so we get them
Okay,
finalized.
great. Thank you for clarification, because they have different names per, so
Yes.
I just want to make
Well,
sure.
thank you for the question.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, that actually is part of what came to mind when I was hearing the discussion. So when we hire, say, a new teacher, what do we hand them when they start? Do we hand them an employee handbook, or do we point them to administrative policies on the website, or what?
They go through onboarding here. You want to explain that process a little bit since you oversee that for us, Mrs. Roth? They start here and then they go over to the building, and buildings give them information pertinent to the building. It's not necessarily a handbook. It may look a little different per building. And while they're here, they're given resources to understand where to go and get the information they need at the district level. But you want to explain just?
can, yeah.
Thank you.
So when we do have employees, each job description, first when it's posted, has the applicable employee documents attached to it. So for a non-certified position, it would have a non-certified information. So then that stays with that position. And then when we do onboarding, if we do onboarding for teachers, we typically go over the contract with them, and we just high-level type things, but we also make sure they know where those documents are. And the same for classified employees. We make sure that they have usually a folder with documents in it that are everything they need to get started, that would be things that you would find, where to find a handbook or rules or that kind of thing.
So all these administrative guidelines that we're talking about that are the meat of how the school operates, they do get them in some form.
They would not have access, they would not go in a handbook. They're online. And honestly, given that they're new, we would probably talk about those when we onboard people as well.
Absolutely. And we're even working with our administrators, because as these get passed during our last admin meeting, the request was, can we come together and ask questions and have responses to our questions? Just because this is new, as you know, we haven't had guidelines to a number of policies. And so we're going to be working hard to make sure that our administrators' questions are answered as they review them and create their questions. We'll all work together to make sure consistency, and then they'll go back and they'll do the same thing with teachers, making sure that they know that there's opportunity to ask questions and clarify along the way.
We do a pretty large teacher orientation during the summer for new teachers, and we already spend a bit of time going over the teacher contract, like I explained benefits and things like that. But we will probably add, since we've been finishing up a lot of the policies and now adding the admin guidelines, I'll do a section on where to find all that information as well and point them in the direction of how they can answer questions themselves, where they can go on our website to find information.
Super. Thank you. And it'll change every month, so check back frequently. All right, if everybody is through with their questions, I'll go ahead and start the vote. I'll remind you that this was to approve the policies listed under no changes and to rescind the orange ones as, well, there we go, 7-0. Stop talking, Amy. Okay, super. The next one to discuss is D100 Corporation Organization.
Okay, so this one, we had a board member recommendation. You can see that in there in blue. We struck out one line of that. We did run this by legal. It is not necessary, but there's not a problem with it. So it is the recommendation of the policy committee that we approve the blue language minus the one line, the first line that we have struck, as it is completely redundant to in accordance with state law.
Okay, so Rachel moves that we approve as presented by the policy committee without the struck line. Is there a second? Lawrence, thank you. Is there any discussion about this one? Super. I will go ahead and re-up the buttons. There we go. Oh,
No, it's called, Butterfinger and Screen.
I can see it on mine. We've got 6. Yes, I can't see who, but I can see that we have 6. Is there? No, it looks like you have not yet. Nope. There you go. Okay, now 7-0, it passes. And the next item is D125, evaluation of the superintendent. Rachel?
Right, so in this one, you're going to see that we added the green, the policy committee's recommendation was the green wording. And first off, in that first paragraph, we put the performance of the superintendent will be reviewed at a minimum annually. We wanted to leave that open, that really that review could happen at any time at the discretion of the board. Not that we would anticipate that, Dr. Greiner, just to be clear, but just, adding that language in to be a little more comprehensive. And then you can see a board member has recommended the text in blue and the policy committee has recommended an alternate text in green. So it is my motion that we approve policy D125 with the addition of the green text and not the addition of the blue text.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. Is there any, Daisha, go ahead.
So the blue text and the green text are very different, and the superintendent's evaluation should represent the perspective of all 7 board members, not just limited to the president or the board leadership deciding how to incorporate the views. So I would like to make a motion to adopt the 2 blue sentences and the last sentence of the green, because that part's a good addition. So that is my motion.
Is there a second? Okay. Lawrence seconds that. Is there any discussion about the blue? Rachel?
So what we tried to do in wording this, and I'll just speak for myself, not for the whole policy committee, but the blue text really puts it into a step-by-step. You must do this. I believe it's more important to focus on what will be beneficial to the superintendent's success. So that language in green, the board shall incorporate views of all board members in the superintendent evaluation and shall present the evaluation in a way determined to be the most beneficial to superintendent success. So what that language is written to intend is that the board and the superintendent will be partners, will be allies in the superintendent being successful. And that the superintendent would have a voice with us in terms of how he would prefer or she would prefer to receive that performance evaluation from us. And in a situation, and why that third sentence is important to add, is that if what is most beneficial to the superintendent is not to have a full board meeting and executive session, then he then or she then would have the opportunity to still give a written response to the full board, and everyone on the board would see that. So those are the reasons why I personally prefer the green text.
Okay, anyone else? Lawrence?
Yeah, during our committee meetings, I think this green one is pretty good one, and later, I think it's very good one. I like that the determined to be the most benefited to superintendent success. That's good one, and also 30 days the written response from superintendent. So that's good for to set up make these formalities kind of board and superintendent relationship. Set up these. Another the things I think after during the last weekend incorporate this one probably to make things when you say incorporate, it means somebody consolidate the 7 board members idea and then make some changes. So I think probably the best way we can still use the consolidate all the individual board members, and then for whatever we have, and then give that to the superintendent. So that's my my second thought about these green things, especially the incorporate this word. I think probably consolidate maybe better. That's my thought. Yeah.
You would rather give the superintendent, the aggregate of, the average of everyone's scores rather than each person's individual score? Is that what you're saying?
I think what I'm understanding, if I'm hearing you
correct.
correctly, is that he would prefer the word consolidate to incorporate.
Yes.
I see.
In terms of scores, we can do the average or whatever, you can do the calculations, that's no problem. But when we have some wording comments or something, I think, I mean,
I
anybody
see.
make any incorporate, when you say incorporate, it means you change something and then put a console.
Okay.
So you,
So
I think
you're
probably the
moving-
yeah, probably the easiest way, just put everything together and then forward to superintendent.
Oh, we're
And
getting
the
my
superintendent,
favorite nested motions now.
I would like to amend my motion.
Yes, Rachel.
I'd like to amend my motion to be that we would approve policy D125 with the green wording changes, with the exception of substituting consolidate for incorporate in the green text.
Okay, is that acceptable to Daisha?
So my so the blue recommendation addresses two different points. The first point is how are all the evaluations being put together? And I appreciate Rachel saying that this will be changed so that that does happen. But I also like the second part because this is what is also done in other school districts where the board together is sharing this evaluation. The part about beneficial to a superintendent's success, that is our job, is to make him successful, the school district successful. So that doesn't seem like such the focus. So I do want to leave my motion to what I have to share.
Okay, here's how we're going to do this. The first thing I would like to vote on is amending the text of the whole thing to consolidate instead of incorporate. And if we can all agree on that, then we can come back, circle back to the last sentence and take that as a separate vote. Is that all right with everyone?
So we should leave the second, and then we need it clear of what is said, because I'm still not clear.
Okay, so what I would like to do is, I'm sorry, let me find it. The board, the green text, but instead of the word incorporate, it will say consolidate. And we are only voting up to the,
So that's not quite how she
that's not
structured
quite,
it. Yeah.
okay, help me out.
She amended her original motion was to approve the entire thing with the green text.
Mm-hmm.
She amended that to use the word consolidate rather than incorporate. So if we vote on that, we're voting for the whole thing.
Okay, but then we can also come back and have a second amendment to the second sentence, right?
No, because we're approving the whole thing. Because the only thing she amended with her original motion
But that's
was
will be
changing
the-
the word.
We're the amendment for the.
We're not voting on the
initial-
amendment, we're voting on the whole thing?
No, we vote on amendment first. There may be several amendments. So there are several proposals. We vote on that first and then back to the.
All she needs to amend that is second to say,
Oh, okay, so just with the second, that amends it. Okay, so is there a second to amend what Rachel said?
sure, I'll second.
Okay, George, okay, so now the green text might as well say, the board shall consolidate views of all the board members. Now, Daisha, would you like to make a motion regarding the end part of the,
So my understanding is she has a different motion, so I would.
Yes.
vote on hers
Yeah,
and
I
go
think
back
we
to what
vote
mine- mine is
the motion
different than
first.
hers than-
but oh my goodness, the motion to amend needs a
Yeah, and then
second,
we-
can be
well,
debated, and can be
Dacia's
amended.
Dacia's amendment.
So we can
We
vote
vote
on hers,
on.
and then we'll go back and vote on mine.
I
yeah,
would
that-
like to briefly withdraw my motion so we can resolve
Okay.
Dacia's, and then we'll come back to mine.
Super, okay, Daisha, would you like to make a motion regarding the exact language of what you're moving?
Yes, so I make a motion to amend to adopt the first two the two sentences in blue in addition to the last sentence.
So can I read that whole thing? So.
Yes, please, go ahead.
So you have some time. So basically, my understanding, Dacia's motion is the board shall consolidate all individual evaluations completed by each board members into written board evaluation. The board shall then meet with the superintendent to present and discuss the official board evaluations in executive session, which in and then within 30, No, the superintendent shall provide a written response to the evaluation to the full board within 30 days of any evaluation meeting. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Is
think
there-
Is that right?
Is there a second?
Yeah, I can-
You already
I can
seconded.
second, yeah, I can
Okay,
second.
great. Any discussion? Okay. I will start the vote. This is only for Dacia's amendment, not the other, sorry, buttons. Okay, that does not pass. So we are coming back to
I would like to make a motion
Rachel's motions.
that we pass policy D125 with the green language, with the one exception of changing the word incorporate to consolidate, as we have previously discussed.
Okay. Is there a
I
second?
can second.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion? Great, I will restart.
Is that discussion or voting?
I said any discussion and nobody said anything. This is
Oh.
on the whole D125 with the word incorporate being consolidate instead in the green text.
I was going to say something.
Okay.
I didn't realize we already moved to the vote part.
Is there any way we can back?
Yeah.
So just, oh, can I still say something?
Sure,
Or
go
it's too
ahead.
late? Okay, so, this user determined to be most beneficial sounds vague, and who will determine? So there's no, who will determine, and, yeah, I feel it's a weak. And another thing for clarification, so that mean, so the blue one means all the board members will meet with the superintendent for the evaluation, then the green one means it depends, right? So is that my interpretation? Then my next question will be, what's a common practice? So this is not something new, right? So how
In
other
this-
districts and practice this, and so I just feel it would be nice to follow the common practice.
Okay, so in this district, it has always been the practice, and Rachel can correct me if I'm wrong, that the president of the board presented the consolidated information from everyone's evaluations to the superintendent. This year, we changed it, and the board leadership did that. Everyone was given the opportunity to fill out the form.
Yeah.
Everyone was given the opportunity to
So-
weigh in on the
sorry,
goals.
sorry to
I'm sorry,
interrupt
I'm
you.
talking now.
Because
Everyone,
that's not my
hold on,
question.
hold on. Everyone was given the opportunity to fill out the
Yes.
form. Everyone was given the opportunity to weigh in on the goals. Dr. Greiner offered to speak with anyone who had additional information, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find anyone who wants to sit down in a performance evaluation with 7 people who can't agree on the wording of a policy. And if we're sitting in a meeting and you're saying, I want you to go left, and I'm saying, I want you to go right, that is confusing information, and it's too important to have confusing information in that meeting. It needs to be, this is what was decided, and if other people have comments or clarifications on their own scores, they can have that meeting. So that is where we are at, and that is how it's always been done as far back as I can remember in this district, and with the exception of the 3 of us, rather than just one of us, presenting that information to Dr. Greiner.
So the common practice, I mean, how other districts do, not about ours, because I know how
I have no idea. I've never been on a board in another district, and I don't think it matters. This is the practice here. So let's not worry about the blue text anymore, which was voted down, and focus on the current motion, which is the whole policy with the green text, with the exception of the word incorporate, which becomes consolidate. Okay?
Then I have another suggestion
Okay.
for the green. And so I will suggest to replace superintendent success with district success.
Is there a second? Okay. I need to write that down. Please hold.
Because the reason is I feel, so that's what the board need to do, and because we are responsible for the district. And most of the time, the superintendent's success is aligned with the district success, but I just want to make sure that district is what we are responsible for. We represent the district, and we make sure that the leader will lead us to the success of the district. So,
Thank you.
but
Rachel?
again,
I would like
most
to,
time they are aligned.
I would like to point out to my fellow board members that the next policy we're going to look at, D150, if you want to hop ahead, it specifically addresses the issue of annual evaluations. The policy committee has recommended language that last paragraph would read, the board is responsible for conducting annual evaluations of the superintendent's performance in accordance with policy D125, one we're talking about right now. The superintendent's success shall be assessed objectively based in part on progress towards the goals established collaboratively by the board and superintendent. So specifically, in the next policy that we're going to pass, we are in 125 talking about how it is delivered and what that collaboration in the board looks like. And in policy 150, we are talking about what measures it would be based upon. Presumably, the superintendent's goals would be aligned with success of the school corporation.
Okay,
If
thank
that
you.
helps answer any questions, what we're going to vote on next.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment on this? Okay, great. Let's go ahead and vote on whether or not to replace district success instead of superintendent success. Okay, we have the motion fails, and so we are back to Rachel's original motion, excuse me, which is to approve the entire policy with the green wording except for the word
Consolidate.
consolidate in place of the word incorporate. Thank you, goodness. All right, any other discussion on that? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start the vote to approve. Okay, that motion passes 6-1. D125. Okay, sorry, I needed to make a note. The next item, as pointed out by Rachel, is D150, Board Superintendent Relationship. Rachel, would you like to take us through this one, please?
So D150, I've just read the language change. The policy committee has recommended that we create this language and tie it back to 125.
Okay, and so Rachel moves that we adopt D150 as presented with the green text, which ties it back to the previous policy. Is there a second? David, thank you. Any discussion? Great, I will go ahead and reset this. And we'll go ahead and vote to approve D150 as presented. And that passes 7-0. Thank you. The next item is D150. Rachel, would you like to take us through that?
D200.
I'm sorry, D200. It's been a long day.
It's okay, there's a lot of policies here. So D200, Standard of Care and Supervision of Students. Policy Committee recommends adopting the policy as provided by legal. So as you look at this, red is the legal. We do have a board member who's made a recommendation to the end of the first paragraph And in reviewing this, it is just redundant language. And so we have not proposed to add that necessarily, but we would like to add the language in red at the bottom regarding an allegation of the employee of the corporation and the corresponding Indiana code.
Okay,
So I'd like to make that motion, please, for D200.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Lawrence, is there a discussion on D200? UA?
I found that the red paragraph is very confusing. The whole paragraph has one sentence, got a lot of commas, and I feel the sentence is really confusing. So is there a way to break it down to at least 2 sentences to make it easier to understand?
Where would you propose that change be?
And depends on, so basically whoever wrote this one,
This
Kind
is
of-
the recommended text by legal. I would recommend keeping it as is.
This is based on Indiana code. This is not something we have flexibility on.
So basically what it says is, according to the law, if someone makes an allegation and the corporation determines that it's unsubstantiated, the corporation will provide written notice within 14 days to the employee and the parent of the student regarding that determination. All of the commas are just adding additional people or situations to the allegation, so. Okay,
yeah, that's
So-
fine, but I really feel that's,
okay. That's why we're not lawyers, except George. Anyone else have anything to say about D200? George?
Yeah, just a question for whoever suggested the blue text. Does the writer of the blue text feel that these items aren't covered either in this policy or other ones?
I don't know that that's relevant right now, given nobody's made a motion to discuss the blue text.
Okay.
So.
So it shall remain a mystery. All right, anything else? Then we shall move forward to the vote to approve D200. I'm sorry,
Yeah, regarding George's question, there's some requirement.
buttons, button. There you go.
There's some requirement regarding those, some training things, or regarding reporting, training things. For, there's a Indiana code requirement, but per discussion during our committee meetings, and we get some feedback from our school administration teams, they think probably it's kind of redundant, so we
Okay.
just we don't want to adopt that. in our policies.
Thank you. Okay, in that case, let's go to the buttons. All those in favor of adopting D200 with the red text only, indicate with your buttons. And that passes 7-0. The next one is D300, controlled substance and alcohol testing for CDL license holders.
Again, this one is, sorry,
That's all right, please.
should to go. Okay.
Yeah, please.
So this one, oh, thanks, Lawrence. This one is, this is legal code. This is not something we have a lot of flexibility on. You can see that we, as a policy committee, recommend using a role instead of a specific name so that this policy does not need to be changed with any personnel changes. And then you can see that the red text is what has been proposed by legal on this. So it is my motion that I'm sorry, scrolling down, you can see we applied that same that same general role rather than an individual person. Further down in terms of the contact for the alcohol breathalyzer tests. So just staying consistent with that. And those are our only recommended changes to that. So with that, I make a motion that we approve policy D300 with all of the changes in green as well as the changes in red as recommended by legal.
Okay, is there a second? Lawrence, thank you. Any further discussion? Daisha?
My understanding is we were going to update these policies so they didn't have he, she, and we're going to have they. Why did the policy committee decide not to do this?
Rachel?
Yeah,
It's not.
in all honesty, Daisha, it's possible that some have slipped through. It is the intent that they all be they.
Okay, I sent an email with the three, but I can share, so I'll make a do you want me to make a motion to make the changes? Is that the best way to do that?
Sure.
Okay, so,
Wasn't updated.
In the pocket, yeah.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
that falls into oversight category, so.
so on page 1, on page 2, and the very last page, there are he, she, his, her, and he, she. So I make a motion to amend it to change those to they, their, and they have.
Okay,
I'll
Rachel?
second that.
Okay, thank you. All right, any further discussion? Yue?
Just a minor thing, I noticed this one and a couple of other ones that have 2 columns. Where, is there any particular reason for the format change?
No, it just, that's how it came to us. But can we stay on the he, she, they issue and address that first? It makes it a lot easier if it's in order. Okay, any other comment on the he, she, they issue? No, okay, let's start the vote. All those in favor of changing the he's and she's to they's? And that one passes 7-0, and so we will return to the original motion to approve this as amended, basically. Any further discussion? No, okay, buttons, buttons, buttons. There we go. Okay, that's 7-0. Okay, super. The next one is E100.
We moved on to the E's. Congratulations, everybody. So on this one, we just added, policy committee is recommended that we add a specific statement that curricula will comply with the laws of the state of Indiana and Indiana academics. That is my motion, that we would approve E100 with the additional green line.
Okay, is there a second? David? Okay, and is there any discussion on this item? Okay, all right, there we are with the buttons to approve E100 as presented with the green text. Great. Now we're cooking. Next is E125, promotion, placement, and retention of students. Rachel?
Yep, so on this one, you're going to see a question or conversation really centers around paragraph number 2. A board member has recommended the language in paragraph 2. The policy committee discussed it and offers alternate language that is similar, but it reads, the board delegates sole authority to corporation teachers and building principals to make determinations of academic grades. The board also delegates sole authority to corporation teachers and building principals to make determinations of promotion or retention at a grade level with parental input in the best interests of the children. The board and/or superintendent shall not hear appeals regarding a student's grade or promotion retention. There is a missing T. That is standard practice, that we would not hear appeals. That is not the role of the board. So it is my recommendation that I move to approve E125 with the green text paragraph plus 1 missing T.
Okay, is there a second? David, thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Daisha?
First off, our current policy on this topic, 5410, allows individuals to appeal to the superintendent. And I don't agree with closing that down. I think that if parents are concerned and have felt like it's not been resolved with the teacher and principals, that having the superintendent involved is a positive thing.
Okay, can we take them one at a time, please?
That's all I've talked about. So.
Right, that's why I jumped in. So can we take that as a motion to amend?
So what I'm proposing is paragraph 2 to me reads very honestly abrasive. It doesn't feel very collaborative with our parents. And so my proposal for paragraph 2 would be teachers and principals in collaboration with parents determine academic grades and decisions about promotion or retention in the best interests of each child. So just to clarify, it's more or less what these first few sentences say. It's just more of a kinder way of saying it than the way that it's currently written. And then the last sentence that I would like to add is, if a disagreement remains, the superintendent will make this final decision. So I am making a motion to change paragraph 2.
Okay. So it would say, teachers and principals in collaboration with parents make determination of academic grades.
So after, in collaboration with parents, determine academic grades and decisions about promotion or retention in the best interests of each child. If a disagreement remains, the superintendent will make the final decision, which actually lines up with our current policy.
Okay. If a disagreement remains, the superintendent will make the final determination. Decision. That sounds fun. Okay, is there a second? Lawrence seconds it. Okay. Rachel?
So what Mrs. Mumbert has recommended is that parents are part of the grading of their children's work, and that is wholly inappropriate from my perspective. Teachers are the professionals in the classroom accountable for assessing student performance and determining if it is correct. And I don't think it is in any way appropriate that a teacher or a parent would come in and, for example, come into their high school chemistry teacher and say, you gave my child a B and I don't like that grade, so you need to collaborate with me and make that an A, please, because I would like them to get into Harvard. That doesn't really feel like a situation that we want to set up for our principals and superintendent to deal with.
Very good. George, did you have something? I saw you.
I do, actually.
Okay.
So, Sean, can I put you on the spot for a second? Sure. I agree with Rachel about having parental involvement in grades and promotion and retention decisions, because that is a bit strange and takes the authority away from teachers who are in the classroom with the student. But as far as appealing to the superintendent, how do you feel about that? Is that something that is necessary? Is that something that has had to happen in the past? Is that something that you'd like to continue?
Not something that has had to happen in the past. And what I was explaining to the policy committee is ultimately, as long as they're following policy, I'm going to support the principal who's working with and supporting the teacher. So we would meet with any parent, and we do. We would not meet to discuss changing a grade. We would meet to understand there's a breakdown in communication, and we would help facilitate back dialogue with the principal, parent and principal, who would then hopefully facilitate getting that back down to the teacher who's responsible for working and addressing grades in a classroom.
So in other words, you're fine with taking that out of the policy because it's already something that you've decided you're not going to do.
I'm very comfortable with that because I will always respectfully hear, and I agree with Mrs. Mumford, the importance of collaboration, working with and helping a parent feel heard and valued. I do not agree with, unless policy has been broken, going against our teachers, who are the professionals in the classroom in their area of expertise.
Understood?
Daisha?
Just to clarify, if I was a parent reading this current proposal where it says that the superintendent shall not hear appeals, I don't feel like that allows me to go to the superintendent and have this collaborative discussion that he's sharing. To me, if we change this, this is not telling the superintendent that he has to disagree with the principals. It's bringing him into the process. And then my other point is, with what Rachel said, is I actually, in my experience, feel like our teachers are a lot more collaborative than you give them credit for. If there's concerns with grades or anything, my experience with teachers is they are open to talk to students or parents if there's questions. Just because the word collaboration is brought in does not mean the parents are dictating what the teachers have said. And so that was why I recommended the way I did, is because I believe it's continuing the practice that I have appreciated seeing in this school district.
Okay. Anyone else? George?
Yeah, and Daisha, don't get me wrong, or hopefully anybody else here wrong, thinking that we don't want parental involvement, because we do, but it's putting that in a policy statement, which is essentially akin to school board law, for lack of a better way to describe it. I'm not sure that's something we want to do. I don't know that we want to put in our local district law that parents have the ability to go and potentially harangue teachers because they don't like what happened in the class.
And I think if you use the word you just used, I agree, but when you use collaboration, to me, when we are making decisions about educating children, it's about collaborating. And when I read this, to me, it very quickly did not read as a collaborative approach. And so my proposal is to put it in line with more of a sense of collaboration than the sense that I read right now, where it says, we give sole authority to this, you may not appeal. To me, that is very abrasive when I'm reading it as a parent. So that's why I'm recommending what I am.
David?
I think it's important to remember that problems need to be solved at the most proximal level. And by allowing there to be appeals to the superintendent undermines the role and authority of the principals. This doesn't say principals can't hear appeals. In fact, that's where appeals would go. And I would trust that our principals will work collaboratively with the teachers and parents when there are challenges, but those aren't things that should rise to the level of the superintendent. If there are 10 kids per school or families per school appealing a grade in a year, that's probably an absurd number. But that doesn't need to go to the superintendent. That needs to be addressed at the building level. And so I don't think that we should modify it to allow the appeals to be at the superintendent level.
Okay. George?
Considering that, are you open to a proposal to make the policy say exactly that? Instead of saying the superintendent shall not hear appeals, we could instead say final appeals rest with the principal of the building.
Like your more positive language.
Okay, George moves that we,
Oh, wait, we got to resolve Dacia's.
We do have
oh,
to,
we
yeah.
do, okay. Okay, so understanding that there is another proposal pending, let's go ahead and vote on Dacia's amendment to paragraph 2 to say teachers and principals in collaboration with parents determine academic grades and promotion or retention in the best interests of each child. Oops, I hit too many buttons. If a disagreement remains, the superintendent will make the final decision. Okay, the motion fails 2-5. In that case, is there another motion?
I would like to amend my motion. Let's
Rachel
make
would
that more
amend,
simple.
yes.
I would like to amend my motion to change the last sentence to be the positive language that Mr. Lyle has provided.
To the,
You're gonna have to repeat that, George.
So instead of saying the board and or superintendent shall not hear appeals, we could say final appeals rest with the building principals.
okay.
I can't second my own motion.
Right, but I would assume that since it's George's language, George would like to second?
Shall second
George
it,
would like to
sure.
second. Okay, any discussion about that particular language? David?
Just for clarification, where in the paragraph is that going?
So rather than,
The board also delegates sole authority to corporation teachers and building principals.
yeah, instead of the board and or superintendent shall hear no appeals, it's going to say the final appeals rest with the building principals.
We already say that. The board also delegates sole authority to corporation teachers and building principals to make determinations of promotion and retention at grade level with parental, okay, sorry. The first paragraph, the board delegates sole authority to, first sentence, to teachers and building principals to make determinations of academic grades. Like that, and I think that it says it's sole authority. So I don't think we need to change that.
Okay,
And I do think that we need to be clear that the board and the superintendent won't hear appeals.
okay, thank you. Anybody else? George?
Well, I am always open to making things clear. And you're right, it does say that in that next paragraph, but the word appeals doesn't appear there, which is one of the things that was Dacia's concern. So I don't think it's problematic to say something twice, as long as we're saying it twice for a good reason. And so, if we
We're
say,
saying the same thing. Okay. Anybody else? UA?
I feel the current last sentence is not practical. Frankly, no matter what the policy says, most people will not read it. They will appeal anyway, if they feel their needs to, right? So when they do, what will Sean or we do? And we just tell them we cannot hear you. I mean, so this rule is for who? For us or for parents? And that's first point. The second
Can we please
is
do points one at a time?
so on that point,
So we can keep it
yes,
straight.
that is how that would work. If you're putting that in the policy saying that the board and the superintendent will not hear appeals, I mean, no one is going to stop anyone from showing up at the office with a transcript in hand saying, I want this changed. What this policy says is that this board and the superintendent won't be the ones changing it.
well, the agreed for a particular course might be a rather minor thing, but sometimes some of those appeals might be related to a policy. For example, a class placement, and it happened before. So many parents were not happy about the placement options.
But this policy is about promotion and retention and
Yeah,
grades.
the
not
placement
about-
is kind of related to promotion as well, like which grade level and math level or language arts level, whatever. And so it's not only about a particular course grade. And then, how principal handle it and depends on the particular principal. And sometimes we kind of experienced that before. And then when parents appeal to the principals say, talk to your teacher. Then those parents got stuck. And so if we have this policy, then when they talk to Sean, then Sean say, talk to your principal. Then principal say, talk to your teacher. So they all the way go back to the teacher say, no, whatever
Yeah, and
place you are put is.
And ultimately, the person that is likely going to be the expert in how that student performs in a class is the person leading the class. As far as I know, Dr. Greiner doesn't lead any classes. Is that correct?
Not here.
You're correct.
Okay. And even if you did lead a class, you would only be knowledgeable about the people in your class, correct?
That's correct, Mr. Lowe.
Okay. So if we're going to ask someone who doesn't have any involvement in this child's academic life whatsoever, to be the final arbiter of whether or not they can succeed, whether or not they are going to get a certain kind of grade in a class, that's putting both of those people in a terrible position. You're putting someone who doesn't know anything about the student in charge of determining whether or not the student gets a specific outcome. That's a disservice to both of them.
I don't think you can say parents don't know anything about their
I
kids.
didn't
Okay,
mention
hold on.
parents
Let's-
at all in my statement.
Rachel?
Dr. Reiner, is a teacher's ability to assess a student's performance part of their performance evaluation?
Yes, it is, Mrs. Witt.
So teachers are educated in school on how to assess student performance. They are told by the state how to administer exams and administer standardized testing to phenomenally minute detail. They are held accountable for assessments and consistency professionally. I suggest that it should be up to them to determine how a student is doing with the provided content objectively. So I don't know that it sounds abrasive. I think it just sounds realistic that parents do not assess a student's performance in a class, and I am strongly opposed to opening that door. If we could let our teachers and administrators do their jobs, that would be ideal.
Okay, I think debate has reached a point where we can go ahead and vote on this one. So we are voting on the, oh my goodness, I don't even remember now. Whether or not to change the last sentence to final appeals rest with the building principals? Okay, that is correct? Okay, thank you. That's fine. So we're voting on whether or not to change that last sentence to final appeals rest with the building principals. Okay, that one is 5-2. And then we will move backwards to the original motion.
So, actually,
Did I do that
no,
twice?
you didn't. You're about to do it twice because Rachel moved to amend her original motion to incorporate that language.
Oh,
Yeah, I forgot. I amended that.
I was voting on George's.
okay, let's redo that one because I was unclear. So Rachel moved to amend the original to,
The green one,
I moved to amend the green text from
the last sentence.
Yeah, her
last
original motion
sentence
was the
to
green.
add, yeah.
So that's the.
okay,
last
so we're voting only on that last sentence right now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead.
Are we only voting on her?
The mo-
On changing the last
the
sentence,
amendment,
yeah. We're not voting on the whole thing
yeah,
yet.
and after
Okay.
that-
Last sentence only. Okay, there we go.
Can I ask for clarification?
Yes?
So when we replace the last sentence with George's proposal, does that mean that parents can still appeal even though eventually the final decision will be?
We're no longer
Determined.
voting on that. We're voting on what Rachel said, which was to change the last sentence of the green to final appeals rest with the building
Yeah.
principals.
Yeah, that's my question. So after that replacement, that means parents can still appeal, let's say to Sean, say, hey, but Sean will say,
No, they can't.
Well, they can.
I mean, they can on a practical, we're not going to stop you from walking into the office level, but I mean, what we're doing right now is setting in
so we
policy.
don't forbid people from
No.
appealing.
So there's a difference between the actionable word appeal, as in this is a formal proceeding that we're going to hear, versus the verb that anybody can do at any time. I can appeal to you to shovel your sidewalk in the wintertime. You don't have to listen to me. You know, and we're talking about the difference.
So at least Sean will be informed with this kind of request. If Sean got a lot of these kind of appeals, then Sean may pay attention to that issue, even though eventually the principal and the teacher will make the final decision. But Sean, I assume, can make some suggestions. If there's some consistent problems, to some degree, Sean can intervene, right? Can I interpret it that way? Because the current way says no, Sean will be kind of totally shut down to any appeal to these issues. But with the new way, essentially Sean can listen, even though Sean will still depends on the building level and teachers to make that final decision. But if Sean decided to intervene, he can.
No, that's not what this says.
No,
This says final appeals rest with the building principals.
yeah.
If that's not acceptable to you, please vote no. Okay, and if you would like to move to change the language of that last sentence again, we can do that, but having motions within motions is where I get lost and everything gets confusing.
I know,
So-
but before I go, I need to understand what that exactly means in
What-
practice. What will
What it
happen.
means is final appeals rest with the building principals. David?
This isn't preventing Sean from collaborating or talking with the building principal. But it means that the building principal has the final determination of any appeal. And if the building principal makes an appeal, then that family can't go to, up to Dr. Greiner and say, we want to appeal this, and they actually could do that, but then he can refer them to final decisions rest with with the principal. And, but it doesn't stop him from talking or learning more from the family. He already said that that's something that he would absolutely always do. But it means that he's not going to go and override a decision made by our building principals in this case.
Okay, yeah.
So
Can
I
we
just
go
want
ahead
to
and vote on
clarify-
this specific sentence, whether or not we're going to amend it? That's the vote right now, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and start it over so that we can all be clear that we're voting on whether or not we're changing that last sentence to final appeals rest with the building principals. Super, okay, that one passes 5-2. So now we're gonna go back and do the whole thing, unless there is another motion. Okay, now we're going back to the entire policy, including that amendment of the green paragraph. And we're voting on the whole thing. Everybody clear? Great, okay. And that one passes 6-1. And that included the T. All right, where are we? E150. Rachel, would you like to?
Yeah, E150, this is a policy we're required by state law to have. And basically, all we've done is change one word because the Board of School Trustees does not actually develop a plan. What they do is require and approve a plan. So we don't, we're not as a board going to be telling the teachers how to teach. This is a consistent theme tonight. So I would like to make a motion that we approve policy E150 with the striking of the word develop and the addition of the words require and approve.
Okay, and David seconds. Is there any discussion?
Quick, go ahead.
Lawrence, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, Yue?
Just for clarification, so what's the plan look like? So there we have different buildings and different classes in high school. Then, so this says we will approve a plan. So in practice, how does it look like?
It looks like it'll look appropriate according to the policy.
If I could interject, I
Sure.
believe that Mrs. Roth probably does this reporting to the state that we have a plan. Is that true, Mrs. Roth? Could you?
It is a state template that we fill out, and we've not changed anything. So it's published on the website. It does not speak to specific placement. It only speaks to identification and the assessments we use for identification, which have been the assessments we continue to use for identification.
Do we approve this annually, or how does it work?
You approve it annually.
Okay, so every year we will have a plan to review and approve.
Yep, it'll come back to you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, anything else? Lawrence?
Yeah, quick question. So basically, my understanding is the CCHA's proposal that this developer, this particular word is copied from the Indiana code. I understand it doesn't make sense. But when we change that, legally speaking, we won't be have any possible, did we get anything from CCHA regarding this change? Oh, I mean, legally safe? I mean, basically.
Can you remind me, did we do this on the cuff in that meeting, or was there change in language?
I think we just think this language doesn't make sense, so we change that. I have no problem with that. But I think the reason why they have developer here, because they copy the Indiana code. So, do you think that the CCHA is okay?
I
with
feel like,
that?
Yes, this is
Didn't
when we
we-
bounced back.
I thought we did,
Oh,
because we were
we got
running them
them.
all past, yes, I just wanted to make sure
You
we,
remember
in the
that?
policy committee, we're all in agreement that we did that, but we were working with her throughout.
And functionally, this is not our job to physically develop it. We are delegating this to the appropriate people to develop, and we're approving what, or modifying or not approving what they develop.
Yeah, no problem with that. I'm just wondering, because this word is, I mean, copy from the Indiana code. So I just want to make sure we didn't, there's no compliance issues, so.
There
that's
shouldn't
o-
be.
Huh?
Shouldn't be, not at least according to what I see here.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
That should be okay, yeah.
Okay, anybody else? Great. I'm going to go ahead and start the vote as presented by the policy committee. And that one passes 7-0. The next one is E200, religious release time and credit for religious education. Rachel.
Okay, so on this policy, it's really two sections. One of them is required by law, is religious release time. That is in red underlined from legal, really not a lot of flexibility on that language. And you can see the Indiana code reference at the end. The part that we felt was important for the board to discuss is if we would allow credit for religious education. And because we were not necessarily in agreement on that, and I felt like that would be a full board conversation. So the first piece is legally dictated time that we must give. Second piece is if we want to give academic credit for it. So it is my motion that we approve policy E200 related to credit for or religious release time specifically, and then we cycle back to any further motions that might want to be made about credit.
Okay. Is there a second? David seconds. So the motion is to approve the first half, which is legally required, that says we will release students for religious education. Is there any discussion on that particular part? No? Okay. I will go ahead and start the vote.
Amy, we
Yes.
should probably, just make sure nobody wants to bring up the second half before we vote on the full policy.
Okay. Does anyone have anything to say about the second half?
I thought that's what you were doing, was reserving time to talk about the second half.
Either way, we can do it either
as
way.
separate- Yeah, it's combined.
Yeah, it's fine. That's fine. What would you like to weigh in first? And we'll go
I
down the
don't-
table.
I'm not going to recommend that we approve that. I just wanted to make sure that whether we were just voting on the first half and then coming back to the second, or,
That was my plan, but
okay,
is that okay?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I don't know. I've gotten tired. Okay, so the first half is approved, 7-0. Now we're gonna take the stickier wicket, and I propose that what we do is limit debate on this item because it can get spicy. I propose that we simply come up the table and everyone gets a second chance to speak, and so everyone will have their 2 moments to speak about it if they wish, and then we'll vote. Is that cool with everyone? Great. Daisha, would you like to start?
I'd love more information on this. I just don't even know, Dr. Greiner, what is being done, what's the pros and cons. I just don't feel like I have enough information on this part to even know what to ask or even understand.
I'd love to hear input from Mrs. Roth and possibly Mr. Rogers after I give my information, if you truly want a collective view. For me personally, I believe in separation of church and state. I believe in following the law. And so if the law says legally we must allow students to leave school, then we're going to do that. I believe in the rigor, particularly that our West Side teachers have, and how are we going to monitor that? So I believe that we should not be issuing credit for off-site religious courses, and I think we should keep it separate. That's my view.
Thank you. Mrs. Roth, would you like to weigh in?
Barring any discussions of separation in church of state, we do not currently give credit. Giving credit presents some practical problems. Number one, all of the credits given in our school are given by teachers who are licensed and trained and understand the standards. We have no way of controlling that once that leaves our our wheelhouse, so to speak. The other problem where it becomes is how do you align that? If we're giving a credit, what course do we give credit for? Do we understand that the level of assessment, the level of rigor, as Dr. Greiner said, is at the standard that we would expect? So are we doing justice for a student at that point? It's not to say that there's not that religious education or something like that wouldn't bring value to a student or a family. That's what the law is saying, that we would give release time. I do think as a school, we run into some very practical barriers and considerations if we were to try and walk down that path. Not only practical barriers as an institution, but also in working with students and parents. And it comes down to that concept of, is it which entity is permitted to do this? And I think there are some entities that we would maybe agree would be pretty common, pretty standard. For instance, a local church across the street from the intermediate school might be readily accepted by most people as, oh, that might make sense if we were to allow credit for something like that. But then what if there's a church that forms as an organization and decides that it wants to give this type of education? At that point, it would be hard to say yes to one established church and no to a church that wasn't established, or maybe had a doctrine that was a little bit different from what most people would consider. So I think there are some very practical difficulties with doing anything that would give credit for something we personally don't control or have some kind of guidelines over or put our stamp of approval on.
Mr. Rogers, I'm going to give you the opportunity, but there is no expectation that you have to say any words whatsoever. If you just sit there and look at me like I'm crazy, I'll take the hint. Well, come on up if you're going to say words. Sorry.
My simple thing, did you have any questions or clarifying on that? Because I thought you hit it pretty well. Okay, cool.
Then you're good. Thank you. Appreciate you. I can
Entertain questions too.
I have one, actually. With the new guidelines for workforce development in the schools and work experience and all of that, if someone were studying to be a religious professional and they were to do that, that would fall under a different...
So that would fall under work-based learning. Right. And there are good guidelines about work-based learning and what the work-based learning facilitator has to provide, what the school does, and we all come to an agreement on how credit is awarded and what's expected. Okay. And they're flexible, which means we could have work-based learning occur in a variety of places, but there's still a standard.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. First, your question made me think of one. So what happens if we get a proposal for a work-based learning experience that teaches kids how to be youth pastors?
We would have to have a student who was interested in doing that.
If you want to add
Yeah. The work-based learning starts with the students.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the work-based learning is just separate. So whether it's religious affiliated or whether it's nursing or whatever, it's just about, can this be a career? Can this be a skill? So it has nothing to do with the religious piece, which would have nothing to do with that. So we're not giving credit based off of the religion. We're getting credit. We're going to give credit based off of, you've done these things that are showing that you've learned skills to go do this job. That's all that is. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Rogers, feel free to stay up here too, so you don't have to go back for this dialogue, because I really did want it to be collaborative.
Okay.
I appreciate the questions. I think it's, if you want to talk and you want, feel free to ask any of us. So that was my point.
The second question I had is more
That's right.
for,
You did have another one, didn't you?
this was more for the policy committee, actually. It's just reading the first paragraph. Says pursuant to Indiana law, when the parent of a student provides written notice, principal shall allow instruction conducted by a church, association of churches, or an association that is organized for religious instruction and incorporated under Indiana law. what is their definition of church? Because if it's reading just the plain language here, they're leaving out a lot of stuff.
It's, as I understand it, it's organized, as I understand it, it's an organized religion. So it could be anything that falls under the specter of faith. And it might not be a commonly accepted faith. It could be anything that falls under the specter of faith. So it is, we know, it doesn't matter. We have to release them, but the question of
Oh,
credit.
yeah, I mean, I'm not questioning that part, but I just looking at our policy here and then what the intent of the law is supposed to be. Like, it doesn't read like it incorporates more than just Christians.
I think
No, it
the
doesn't.
incorporated religious instruction, there are groups that are businesses that do this sort of, and they have buses and they.
Oh, yeah, I'm aware of those.
Yeah, I think that's what those mean. They're not necessarily a church where people go on Sunday morning, but they're incorporated for the purpose of religious instruction.
Yeah, I just wanted to get it out there and make it clear that even though it doesn't look that way, the intent was supposed to be for all religious organizations and all religious groups, not just ones that label themselves as church, because church is the only word used in this paragraph.
Oh, interesting. I see what you're, yeah.
It is written that way.
It should also say synagogue, temple, mosque, and other terminology, but we have to remember who's writing these things.
You can ask, you can challenge the legislation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So in the real world, do we have any people apply, any students apply this kind of credit, or they apply for release for the religious instructions in the history? Do we have?
I don't think we do yet. We've had, oh, Mr. Rogers may have.
Get your steps in.
I know we have done release time during certain times of the year.
I was gonna say,
when
that's it. We don't do something that's, let's say, every Tuesday, second period. We don't have very many of those, or not one that I can think of, but we definitely have, especially with this community, which is one of the cool things about it. We definitely have times where we allow release time for kids or families during a specific celebration of their faith. We do that quite a bit.
We have
We're not
that listed
giving
on our
credit,
calendar too,
We're
but
giving that,
yeah.
we're giving that time for them, and it's not counted as an absence.
No, and I think I interpreted the question meaning a regular
Religious
release time to
instruction.
go to an off-site course. But yeah, absolutely. Even our calendar states that if it's not a holiday that's recognized by all, we're going to collaborate and work with families and students.
You release for the celebrations, whatever, but it's not, I mean, here talk about the religions, kind of instruction time. You go there, have a class or something.
Correct. They can. We just don't have anybody right now doing that I'm aware of, but we would honor that.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or discussions about this part? So I think what we need is a motion to either give or not give credit for religious education. Is that correct? Because that was,
I think it's only if somebody wants to make a motion to add this into the policy, otherwise it's not going to be added into the policy.
okay, okay, that's the way. So does anyone want to make a motion to add giving credit to the policy? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to E225. Sorry,
No, you already approved the language.
we already approved the first part, yep. I'm on it for a change. All right, E225.
The second part, we don't need to vote for that.
No, because nobody moved to include it.
Oh,
So it's
we
just
adopt
not
the
there.
first part.
The first
Second
part we
part.
adopted,
The
yes.
second part, nobody changed, and then shall we still need to adopt it?
Nope, because we're not going to give credit, because nobody wanted to. Okay. College and university programs.
Okay, so on this one, it's a pretty brief policy. We had a board member make a recommendation to the end of paragraph 3. The policy committee had some conversation about it. And we do not want to add the blue text. We don't recommend that. And in fact, we do recommend adding one green sentence at the end, which says the school corporation is not responsible for tuition, textbooks, lab fees, or other associated costs, and does not provide transportation to college campuses. So that's what we would tack on to the end of paragraph.
And those
I'd
lab
like to make
fees.
that motion, please.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Okay, Lawrence, thank you. Those lab fees will get you. All right, any discussion on that as presented? Nope, okay. Hearing none, I'm going to push all the vote buttons to approve as presented by the policy committee.
Are we talking about the part that Rachel is talking about, or
The whole
we
thing.
approve the whole thing?
The whole
Okay,
thing as presented.
If the whole thing, I do have a question about one sentence.
Okay.
So in the black part, the last paragraph, it says the corporation reserve the right to deny students eligibility if the course is canceled or due to low enrollment. And we are talking about the university classes, college university classes, but the last one talk about corporation. I found this confusing. What does that mean? The low enrollment or cancellation is for the college class, but why is corporation involved in this?
Please.
So as I understood this, it is if a student applies and Mr. Rogers said, yes, go ahead, that looks like a great class, and the class is subsequently canceled for lack of enrollment, then Mr. Rogers does not have to continue that eligibility. So the student would then need to come back to the school to a regular class of some variety within our curriculum. That is how I interpreted that.
That's also my understanding of that sentence.
Yes.
If the college have the low enrollment, they cancel the class and then you're not eligible to go to that class. That's my understanding.
So then the eligibility for what?
For
To
the
leave.
class.
Yeah,
To leave the
go.
school.
To leave.
To leave school.
To leave school.
Also, I'm gonna make a wild guess and say that this doesn't apply across the board, so they're free to apply for another class.
Yes.
But I just feel this eligibility part is unclear. So is there any way to specify what kind of eligibility for what exactly?
You can have a proposal,
I don't know what that means, so that's why I cannot have the proposal here. And so
Would
deny.
you like to move to amend the,
Point of order.
yes,
The vote was already called and 6 of the 7 have already voted. We've passed the discussion time.
okay. Yue, would you like to go ahead and vote? If you want to vote no, I guess that's your prerogative. Okay, great. That one passes 6-1. All righty, I will pass down your ice cream, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. The policies for first reading can be found on the website under board meetings and info, and then board documents. If anyone has any trouble finding them, please don't hesitate to get in touch. The policies that are being first reading tonight include F100, internal controls and reporting losses, shortages, variances, or thefts. F125, purchasing procedures and capital assets. F150, use of credit cards. F175, collection and forgiveness of debt, parentheses, bad debt. F176, unpaid meals. F200, investment income. F225, fundraising and crowdfunding. F250, travel expenses. F275, gifts and donations. F300, time and effort. F325, debt management policy. F350, reserve and liquidity policy. G100, facility and transportation security. G125, criminal organizations and criminal organization activity. G150, registered sex or violent offenders. G175, chemical management and preparedness for toxic hazard. G200, environmental and health and safety issues. G225, vehicles idling. G250, pest control. G275, animals on school corporation property. G300, latchkey programs. G325, free and reduced price meals. G360, data breach and protection. G375, community use of school facilities. G400, Title I comparability policy. G425, Pledge of Allegiance and moments of silence. G450, advertising, commercial activities, sponsorships, and naming rights. G475, if applicable, prohibition of unmanned aircraft. G500.
It is a thing now.
I guess so. G500 Intellectual Property and Ownership Review, H100 School Visitor and Parent Family Engagement, H125 Corporation Support Organizations, H150 Public Records, H175 Questioning of Students, H225 Public Comments and Concerns, and no ice cream next month. Now you're just showing off. Yes, Rachel?
I would just also like to inform the board, the policy committee is next scheduled to meet on Thursday, December the 18th. So, and we've got a little bit of a short session for that one, less than 2 hours. So I think we all kind of expect that we may have another one scheduled, and or we might not get fully through all of this. But if anyone could get their feedback in by, when do you think, Lawrence? When would you like to be?
Before that,
The 15th, maybe? That's pretty quick. That's a week.
yeah, before 18 should be, before the meeting, 18 morning time.
That won't give you any time to organize them, though.
Thursday next
10
Tuesday.
days.
Tuesday the 16th?
Yeah.
That seems reasonable.
Okay.
There's a weekend in there.
And the way that people have been providing feedback with the policy number in the subject line has been super helpful for the sort and search. So that is an organizational piece that's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the policy committee's extremely hard work.
I'm very sorry. David just reminded me too, we also have January the 6th.
Yeah,
We're also planning to meet January the 6th. So
Okay.
if we don't get through the first one, we'll get through the second one.
Okay, so if there's feedback that you don't receive in time, go ahead and send it anyway, because it's entirely possible that you will
Yep.
be there. Okay.
Yeah, so finally, there is one vote item that's been added on this one. I've reviewed all of, we've started to double back now as we've moved through, reviewed all of section 0000 in the Neola bylaws. So I would like to make a motion to rescind all of that section because we're through it, we're covered.
Great. Is there a second? Thanks, Lawrence. Any discussion on rescinding the old policies? Hearing none, I will reset the vote.
These are the policies related to today, right?
The section 0000 policies, yeah. We've replaced them all. Yeah, okay. And that passes, so those are hereby rescinded. And, whew, Dr. Greiner, would you like to give your superintendent report?
I would love to give my superintendent report. The survey on transfer policy and the referendum has now closed, with more than 800 respondents participating. Preliminary trends indicate greater support for some form of controlled transfers and more support than opposition for the referendum. The next step will be for the community forums to occur, and those are going to occur in January. And once those focus groups have occurred and we've got even additional input from community gathered, we will provide a full report to the board. We're going to meet later this month with our facilitator for the community forums. Once we've met with our facilitator, we're going to start advertising those dates so that we can get additional community input. I want to congratulate Mrs. Carol Letcher regarding her retirement announcement. She's served our district for 20 years. We all can feel her passion and see the result of her passion and support to our students in every performance that our students participate in and that we get to watch. We appreciate that passion, and we appreciate her support to our music department and the many lives that she's touched over the years. She will be greatly missed. Finally, a reminder that winter break runs from December 22nd to January 2nd. School will resume on January 5th. And at this time, I'll make sure, are there questions? And then I'll turn it over to Mrs. Cronk. Okay, at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Cronk to please give a report on accounts payable and fund report.
I think first time you remembered in about 5 months. Yeah. All right, claims for the period of November 5th through December 3rd total $3,904,553, including regular corporation expenses and the Wabash Valley Education Center expenses. Of this amount, $2,548,137 were paid towards wages, salaries, and benefits. I provided you the final fund report for October 2025 in your board packets. Total cash on hand in all funds was $26,457,962. The education fund had a cash balance of $7,378,184. Cash flow through the month of October, showing the flow of revenue and expenses for the Education Referendum and Operations Fund, is also included.
All righty. Next, we have our board reports. Daisha, would you like to go first? Okay, thank you. UA? Oh, you just turned off your,
I took our place at glass.
oh, I'm sorry. You turned off your microphone too. Go ahead. We'll get to you. David?
It was a light week or light month at Parks and Rec, mostly approving new raises for hourly staff. And things are going swimmingly at the Wellness Center and all the, yeah, I know. And all the parks. It's cold outside.
Yes, it is. Rachel?
From the West Lafayette Schools Ed Foundation, first the Wall of Pride awardees were announced. If you missed that, I can get you that information. The fall cycle of the teacher grants saw 11 grants awarded, totaling $11,218. Grants were awarded to teachers in each of the 3 schools, as well as the aquatics director. The teacher grant program has been growing each year, and the foundation would just like to say that we're honored to help fund the innovative and unique ideas. There were some really fantastic ideas out there this time. The West Lafayette Schools Ed Foundation Backpack Program, you probably saw it on the news, received a very generous gift from alumni, George Karloftis and Kaya Harris. Their gift is being matched by the Hunt Family Foundation. Those are the owners of the Kansas City Chiefs. So really grateful for that extraordinary gift. The number of families enrolled in the backpack program is more than doubled. Speaking of matching gifts, the Matching Gift Challenge for the Student Enrichment Fund was successful. There was a concerned family in our school community who came forward, and AP exam fees for our students on the free and reduced lunch program will be covered, thanks to that family's generosity. The foundation has another matching gift challenge running through December 31st. So a generous alumnus from the 1970s has offered to match gifts of the foundation's general fund up to $25,000. So this is a really great opportunity for a small foundation such as ours, and allows us to fund more teacher grants, purchase items for the backpack program, and respond to needs that arise. So you can visit the WLSCF.org or contact Wendy Eiler to make a year-end gift. And finally, mark your calendars, March 28th is the Scarlet and Gray Dinner and Auction.
And what is the theme?
It is prom. And for the record, I did not have a prom picture to include in whatever it was that got mailed out.
It's not just prom, it's your prom.
Yeah, no.
So 1994 for me, or whatever year you graduated, I've been looking for black and white gowns with poofy sleeves.
Okay, anyway, yes, dig out your prom
I
apparel.
cannot perm my hair.
Thank you.
I have no hair to perm.
Lawrence, you don't have one? Okay, George, don't forget your microphone and tell us what happened at Glass.
I have 2 reports. I sat in for UA at the Glass meeting. The dissolution is going as scheduled. Our district has already picked up their paperwork and archival documents, so we don't need to do any of that cleanup. The next step, from what I heard, is to start dividing up the tangible assets like office furniture, iPads, computers, that sort of thing. And Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that will get divided up and according to the portion by which all the districts were involved in Glass to begin with.
That's correct, Mr. Lau.
And because of the Glass dissolution, this is something that's been talked about before, all the districts are going to have to start applying for those grants individually that they were getting through Glass. And then the slightly less positive report I have to do is the legislative liaison report. The Indiana House, the legislature reconvened early to talk about redistricting to essentially divide up Indianapolis into chunks and apportion it to Republican-leaning districts. The Indiana House did approve that. The Senate hasn't voted yet, and about a quarter of the senators haven't decided what they're going to do. So we have no idea how that's going to turn out.
Thank you.
George, just to add, it's not just Indianapolis that is getting divided up into chunks. University Farms and other neighborhoods are getting divided up into chunks.
You're right. I specified Indianapolis because it's getting divided up into many more chunks. It's taking what was one congressional district and turning it into like 6.
Wow.
Okay, I have three things. You may have noticed that the house on Salisbury, just south of the fire department that had burned down, has been torn down by the redevelopment commission, which is making way for a new single-family home. Their next projects include restrooms at Lummel Park and South Street Plaza. Those and South Street Plaza. They're not getting restrooms, they're getting a plaza. Both of which I think I mentioned previously, but the refurbishment of one of the trail sculptures at the Celery Bog is also on their list. Board leadership met with Dr. Greiner this month, as usual, and we went over his performance evaluation. I'd like to commend Dr. Greiner for receiving the highest rating of highly effective again this year, and we are extremely grateful to you for everything you do. So yay, we're gonna clap for that. That's a big deal.
I appreciate your leadership and collaborative efforts to do the good things for our district. So thank you for the opportunity.
And finally, I'd like to announce, since it's the last meeting of the year, it's my intention to stay on as chair of the board if you'll have me. If that is the case, I plan to keep the committee assignments the same. So if anyone would like to change their assignment, please let me know. And if I do not become the chair, I will pass that information along in January. And also, I would like to thank Lawrence and George for their service this year. I think we've really made a lot of strides as a team, and I think a lot of it is due to your hard work, especially Lawrence. I've been really impressed with how you've grown this year. And George, you always bring the good jokes, so thank you. And you're awesome too. But all right, future meetings, Monday, January 12th at 5 if needed. We'll have a work session, and the meeting will be immediately following at 6 here. And don't forget, we have our dinner on January the 20th. I have not found a venue yet, so we might be going to Sean's house.
Please don't do that to him.
And I need a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Rachel, seconded by David, and buttons are buttoning. There we go. Meeting adjourned. Thank you very